All right. Oh, wait, it's your live. Okay.
Hi, my name is Becky Pulmano. I am half Filipino, a quarter Russian, and a quarter Polish. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay, cool. And then we'll do another one. Same thing.
My name is Becky Pulmano. I am half Filipino, a quarter Russian, and a quarter Polish. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky.
All right, cool. So you were talking about how your parents met.
My mother was a nurse and my dad was a doctor at Brooklyn Jewish Hospital.
Okay. And, I mean, they just, in passing during work? Or?
No, they told me this lovely little story about how, I guess all the little nurses and doctors decided they wanted to go out ice skating. I think my dad was like a resident or an intern at the time. And they went ice skating at Rockefeller Center. So all the little nurses came up in their cars and all the little doctors came up in their car. And they were ice skating around the rink, and my mom and her friends saw this little Filipino guy who'd never probably even seen snow before, struggling to stand up on ice skates, and so they took pity on him. I think my mom told me that she said, I'll grab one arm if you'll grab the other, to her friend, and that was how they met.
Cool. Did they ever talk about it being tough for them back then when they were dating? Both professionally and, personally.
They actually never really talked about that until, I guess, in talking about other relationships that my family members have had that society struggles with. My mom equated that to me marrying a black man, and she said that that was when she first brought this up to me, that when she and my dad got together, especially I think when they moved to Kentucky. They would get looks all the time and get stared at and stuff like that, and she said that she would not want that for us. And
so it was tough for her.
Yeah. With the mix that we are, we blend in with like a lot of different ethnicities, but I think that was the one that she picked out. I was thinking, no, you can't really blend in with that.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay. So she was saying that you might not want to marry a black man.
It's not even so much she was saying that you might not want to. It was all in dealing with the fact that my sister's gay, and she's always bringing up how people look down on her, and she's always looking for disapproval in the eyes of my parents. And so that was what brought that conversation up to begin with.
Right. So how did your mother deal with the stares, with the, whatever it is that she had to deal with when she was dating your father? Did she ever talk to you about that?
You know what? She never really did. That was the only time that she ever expressed anything. I mean, she did also bring up one story. I guess my brother was born in 1975. A little half-Asian baby who, I don't know, something about us when we were kids. I think our Asian features came out a little bit more. And she was in the store with my little brother, and a lady came up and asked her how she'd managed to adopt a Vietnamese baby.
But it was in the 70s and
Vietnam War and everything. But I mean, she's told us these stories and everything, but she's never really elaborated on how tough that was. I think maybe she's just a tough person.
Right. Now, you have a brother and a sister.
Yes.
Any more siblings?
That's all.
Okay. Who looks the most Filipino? Who looks the most white? Or are you all just a mixture? Who looks like which kind?
I think my brother probably looks the most Filipino.
Wow.
He's got the darker skin and his hair is more black. And then my sister and I would probably be a competition. I'm not sure.
Right.
I think both of us are a mixture, not exactly looking each, but still like a little bit chameleon.
When you slated and you said the mixture of your mother, you actually said her cultural mixtures instead of just saying white. Why is that?
I'm not certain. I guess since you get so specific with Filipino and instead of saying Asian, I guess that's probably why.
Okay. I was wondering if there was if you don't like the term white, or if you feel that you should acknowledge.
Maybe I don't. That's probably a good point. Maybe I don't like using that term.
But do you know why you would or would not like using it?
I've always felt that there's something special about me. I guess I grew up in an area that was predominantly white. And I've always liked the fact that I was something more than that.
Right.
So I think that might be where it comes from.
What was it like growing up in Kentucky where you grew up? Tell us a little bit about the town. Was it a town? Like a sleepy farm town? Was it
Lexington, when they first moved there, it was much smaller, but by the time I graduated from college, it had a population of about 250,000 people.
Kind of like a Long Beach or a Torrance?
Yeah, except we lived in a very, very, very predominantly white area. We were relatively well-to-do, so it was an area where most of the money was. So a lot of the black students, probably the majority, would have like maybe 2 or 3 black students in each grade, and most of them were bussed in from the poorer sections of town. And I remember 1, maybe 2 Asian people as well, out of a class of maybe 30 some odd students. And that was
Latinos.
I don't remember that so much until when we got a little bit older. The Japanese population increased because Toyota built a plant outside of Lexington. And then also, I guess they started getting a lot of Mexican migrant workers in the horse farms. So that was when we started getting a slightly larger Latino population, but it wasn't anything like it is here in Los Angeles.
How did you feel growing up being the only person of color really around, yes?
Well, I remember there was one, I wasn't really the only person. There was the 1 or 2 black students. There was the 1 or so Asian student. And I guess because my dad was Asian, I would try to identify with her a little bit, but I didn't really. And so I probably grew up within a predominantly white culture and identified with that the most growing up and in my tastes.
How did you try to identify with the Asian student that you mentioned?
Well, I guess I tried to make friends with her when I was a very little kid. But I don't know, just there was no connection there.
And did the other white students ever notice your mixture, your difference?
I don't know. I think they noticed my shortness more than anything else. I was always the smallest kid in the class.
Okay. Did that bother you that they didn't notice that you were half Filipino?
I don't think it really did. The only time it bothered me, and I remember this from an extremely, extremely early age, it wasn't even the other little kids. It was really more adults. The standardized tests that we would take every year, starting in first grade, I remember very distinctly. You start filling out information about yourself on there, and of course ethnicity comes up. And they had white, Asian, black, and Latino. Check 1, please. And I remember being kind of upset and not knowing what to do, because to me it was an exact 50-50. So how do you choose which one? And so I raised my hand and I asked my teacher what to do, and my teacher told me, pick white. And that angered me.
What did you say?
I think I got mad and I put Asian. Or refused to fill it out. I don't remember, but I remember every time I encountered one of these, I went through the same thing. And I would always I got annoyed when they put other on there as well, because other was not appropriate either. Other makes you feel like you're, either something completely exotic that doesn't fit into one of those categories, or an alien or something. I'm not other.
So what do you put now?
If it's on there, I put mixed. If it's not on there and you can check more than one, then I will check both. And if it's No, I don't take offense as much to other, and I just kind of go, those stupid bastards, and I check other.
Right.
Let them figure this out.
Now, did you ever feel that you needed to identify more with one or the other? You mentioned that you had tried to befriend the young Asian girl in your class, but with the white students, I mean, did you ever feel that you needed to do anything to identify more with them and to have them accept you?
I can't say that I did. Not that I recall.
What sort of things in the home, like cultural Filipino culture, did you have in the home?
Let's see. Well, I remember these blankets that we had ever since we were little kids that we kept in the entertainment center underneath the TV.
Mm-hmm.
Those were from the Philippines. Mm-hmm. And we had, I guess in the living room, there was like one little piece of artwork. It's a little something that sits on a table. I don't even know if it was really Filipino or just Asian. Mm-hmm. There's always, the rice cooker in the kitchen, if that counts. But there's this little hanging thing that hangs from the ceiling on a hook, and it's made out of these circular translucent seashells, and it's a big, like, I don't know how to describe it. It kind of comes out like this, and it has like a border around it, okay. And it has all of these little shells kind of on strings like that, so I'm not even sure what you would call it. But that was in my room growing up, and I remember when I left after college, I wanted to take that with me, because to me that was kind of something that I identified with being Filipino. Mm-hmm. And now that I have my own place, I'm like looking, I still have it with me. It's down in the garage in storage. I have no idea what to do with it. But I don't want to get rid of it either.
Right. That's funny. You can't hang it?
I probably could, but you have to find a place where it sort of fits in with the decoration, and I can't figure out where it fits in with anything in my house.
What about extended family? Were you close with your father's family?
Not exactly. Both of my parents were the youngest kid, and by quite a little bit. The cousins that were closest to our age were probably 6 to 8 years older than us on both sides of the family. And my dad's side of the family, he had one sister that lived in New York, in Long Island, with her family, and the other sister raised her family in the Philippines.
Okay.
So, yeah, I have one first cousin I've never met.
Did you ever feel that, do you know your paternal grandmother and your maternal grandmother? You know grandparents on both sides?
I did, yes.
Okay. Did you ever feel that either side didn't welcome you as much as the other, or?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. My grandfather had Alzheimer's disease on my mom's side as far back as I can remember. And apparently he was probably the most difficult when it came to accepting the other, the in-law, I guess, yeah. My mom has often said that if my dad's family had treated her anything like her dad had treated my father, that the marriage would not have lasted.
Wow.
If it would have even happened in the first place.
Right. Did you feel that from them at all? Your grandparents?
No, I didn't, because like I said, my grandfather was pretty deep within Alzheimer's by the time, or at least as far back as I can remember. So, and my grandfather on my dad's side of the family died, I think, shortly after I was born. So I never met him, or that I can recall. But so the grandmothers, was not so much of an issue with them. I think that's pretty normal with women.
It sounds like you guys, that your family sort of was it was insular in a way, that you didn't deal a lot with your extended family.
Well, they were all pretty much in New Jersey and New York, and we were in Kentucky, so we would see them once a year, really.
Mm-hmm. So, growing up, most of your cultural influence was what?
It was probably just my parents, I guess there were a couple of things that my mom learned how to cook. And then I always remember it was the best when we went up to New York and we got to eat all the Filipino food.
Okay. What about in college? You know, you have a lot of ethnic clubs and things like that. Did you have a desire to join any of those ethnic clubs? Or?
No, because I never felt like I fit into any of those categories. Well, first off, I'm obviously not Latino or black. I don't know that they had any Asian one. I'm not aware of that.
Right.
So, and even if they did, I still wouldn't have felt like I identified enough with them to join something like that.
Do you feel a draw to go back to the Philippines at all, or have you been back?
I have never been, and I would absolutely love to go.
And about the language, have you?
I actually regret that. My father never taught us how to speak Tagalog. I really wish he had. I think it would have been neat.
Did you ever think about taking up the language yourself?
No, actually, that's never really occurred to me. I just sit here wishing that my father had taught me when I was young and it was easy to learn.
Right.
Now, I guess I've taken Spanish ever since I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
And not too good at it. So I guess that kind of deters me from trying to learn other languages on my own.
Do people ever think that you're Latino?
All the time. Especially since I moved to Los Angeles. I go places and people will say hello to me in Spanish, and that's like one thing that's just automatic to me. If somebody says a greeting in Spanish, I automatically reply in Spanish. So then they just assume, okay, she knows Spanish, and then they go off in Spanish, and I'm just like, huh?
Well, then how do they look at you when they, because they still think that you're Hispanic.
I'm not sure, because I try to avoid after that. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish that good. Bye, nice meeting you. But I often wonder if they think, stupid girls being raised in the U.S. not knowing their culture.
Right.
I'm sure they do.
Do you feel that way about yourself at all? That you should know more about your Filipino culture?
I wish that I did.
Why?
Just because it's an interesting culture. It's different. Especially, I met a girl through paddling who's Filipino, a full-blooded Filipino, and so I've learned even a little bit through her. So, yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah. You know, growing up in high school, the dating thing is a big thing, and it sounds like you grew up. Well, you said you grew up with mostly white kids.
Predominantly white. Was
that ever an issue? Your mixture with them and their family?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't remember that. The only thing that I've ever heard of was just some discrimination against my father when he was trying to get a job, but I don't think that was about who he married. I think that was just that he was Filipino.
Right. And what about your choices of boyfriends? Or?
That's pretty funny. All of the guys that I've dated have been white. And I don't know if that is that much by choice or if that's just who I'm connecting with.
Well, you mentioned earlier that a lot of your upbringing culturally was probably more white than non-white. And what did you mean by that?
Just my exposure to, I guess there wasn't a large Filipino population that we were aware of in Lexington until probably about the time I was getting ready to leave for college. And I guess with my dad not teaching us too much about the culture, just a little bit, I have to say that I don't feel like I know much other than the food, which I got from going to visit my relatives. So that's, I was surrounded by white culture.
Right.
So.
Would that be music and?
Yeah, music and art and I'm not sure what else, but...
Yeah, you name it. The way you would go to church, worship, the different holidays.
Oh, that's a whole different story.
What's that?
My mom is Jewish and my dad is Catholic.
Oh, wow. Well,
So
that's fascinating too.
Yeah. So
how did that come together in your world?
In my world,
Yeah.
So what I remember is back when I was in first grade. That was when my parents had decided that they needed to give us an education in both of their religions. I know in order to get married, in a ceremony in the Catholic Church, which my dad's side of the family had pushed for before they'd accept my mom, she had to sign a contract saying that we would be raised Catholic, but it was an understanding between my parents that they would not enforce this.
Right.
So then they decided they wanted to give us an education in both religions. First grade, when I was in first grade and my older brother was in third grade, the two of us went to Sunday school at the Jewish temple. And I guess we felt perfectly comfortable, or at least I felt perfectly comfortable with that. I can't speak for my brother. I think the only thing I didn't like is that I couldn't watch cartoons on Sunday morning. But second grade, we went to the Catholic Church for a year. And that was when my brother was in fourth grade. And I remember that raising a few questions. I don't remember any instances in particular, except that at the end of, I don't know if this was a semester or a school year or whatever, we were supposed to attend a Mass. With everyone. We kind of went with our Sunday school class and we would attend this Mass. And my dad was there, and right before the Mass, he runs up and he says, "Don't take communion, don't take communion, you're not supposed to do that." And I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? I don't even understand what you're saying, little 7-year-old child, the equivalent of that running through my head. So I just kind of looked at him confused, like, what? And he said, "When everybody goes up front, don't go." And so the issue is we were never baptized.
Okay.
So we can't take communion.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think I liked that.
You were that close to both religions.
I didn't like that. Well, actually, in the Jewish religion, they believe that if your mother is Jewish, that you're Jewish. So I feel very accepted and welcomed into the religion. Catholic, with Catholicism, you feel excluded from it, but at the same time, it's not like they're trying to chase you away or anything. They're just trying to convert you wholeheartedly to the religion before you can try to go through the motions of it.
Right.
That's the way I would put it. But after that, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, I'm sure my brother was arguing with the Sunday school teachers because he was a smart ass from the very beginning. I'm sure he was. My parents decided we were becoming a little bit too confused, and so they stopped this. And at the time, I was just happy to be able to watch cartoons. But as an adult, I feel like I missed out on something. I think I would have liked to have known a little bit more about both religions. I can't say that I would, to this day, subscribe to one or the other of them if I'd had that education, but it just would have been nice to understand both of them better.
I think it's really interesting that seemed to be more of a controversy in your family than your own ethnic mixture.
Not sure if it was really that big of a controversy. Well, maybe it was. I guess people get a little more passionate about religion than they do about ethnicity.
Right. Wow. So, you had said that at a very young age you were conscious of your mixture. How did you become conscious of that mixture? When was the first time you ever realized that you were mixed?
You know what? I don't even remember.
Was it the family? What was it that made you...
I guess we were just brought up knowing it.
Okay. I mean, did your...
knowing that.
So neither parent...
Oh, maybe it started with, when you're when you're real young, and they have those little questionnaires that you send home, and you're like supposed to talk about your parents, where were your parents born, and stuff like that. So, other people are putting these states down, and I was able to say, my daddy was born in the Philippines.
A little bit of exotic.
Maybe that's where it started. I don't know, but yeah, I do remember thinking, hey, I'm even better than you people. My dad was born in the Philippines.
So you've always thought of your mixture as being a great, wonderful thing.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Has it ever been a burden?
Only when filling out those stupid questionnaires.
Right. But not in any other way at all? I mean, with the way people relate to you or anything?
Not a burden. It's been interesting, but never a burden.
What are some of the interesting things that have happened?
I do remember, I don't remember the whole specifics surrounding the situation, but I'm guessing it must have been when I was working up in Chicago. I found out that somebody had been telling everyone at work that I was Italian. So apparently everybody was wondering. And the last name is Italian. That's a long story. But I just thought it was kind of funny that somebody was just telling everyone I was Italian without really knowing.
Right.
The other interesting story I have on that was when I was traveling around Europe with a friend of mine. We went through most of Western Europe. And my friend was amused as could be because she said that every country we went to, people would be staring at me. I never noticed this. But she said that people would just kind of turn and look at me as they're trying to figure out where I was from. And the best of that was probably when we went to a hostel in Naples, Italy. And the guy that was checking us in said that we don't rent rooms to or beds or whatever to people that are Italian that don't speak Italian. And I'm like, but I'm not really Italian.
What did he say?
He didn't believe me, and I had to explain what little I knew at the time.
Right. Wow. How does that make you feel when people are kind of telling you what they think you are?
I'm just really amused by it. I think it's kind of funny, actually.
Have you ever felt the pull to be one over the other, or felt that like a group, like the Filipino group wants you to be more Filipino, or the white group wants you to be more white?
Maybe the Filipino group wants me to be more Filipino, but I guess I'm probably more white in my behaviors anyway.
How have you identified when the Filipino group has wanted you to be a little bit more Filipino?
Well, I guess it probably starts with my uncle who thinks everything Filipino is better.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know. I get the feeling that when they find out I'm half Filipino, that maybe it's just me and my self-consciousness about my lack of knowledge, but I feel like people are amazed that I've never been to the Philippines, and that they assume that I know things about the Filipino culture and some of the foods and stuff that I don't know. So I'm like, so it might be me being oversensitive. It's hard to say.
What's the reaction when they find out that you don't know those things?
Just some surprise, and then they move on. That's all.
Okay. There isn't a feeling. Do you get any feeling of disappointment from them or anything?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel the disappointment more from within, and I know people have a tendency to project their feelings, their own internal feelings, into other people, and think that other people think things when they really don't. So it might be kind of more that. I don't know. It's hard to say.
So you have a little disappointment about not knowing more Filipino culture.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Who, in thinking about a husband, do you think of leaning to one side over the other?
Well, they say girls always look for their father. So So theoretically, that should mean that I should be looking for an Asian guy.
Right, my sister.
But I've never dated an Asian guy. I would have to say that I do find Asian guys to be physically attractive, because, that must be that whole part of it. But I don't think I've ever found an Asian guy that I really connected with that way. So,
any concern well, yeah, I mean, have you given any thought to the culture and the cultural traits that you would want to bring into your family home?
Just that I would probably want my child to know a little, even though my child will probably only be a quarter Filipino and who knows what else. But I would want my child to know a little bit about how Grandpa's Filipino and what that means, and how Grandma's Jewish and what that means, and then whatever my future husband, assuming I ever get married, brings into the relationship, I would want my child to know that side of the culture as well.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. A lot of people say that we're here in America and it doesn't matter. But I don't know that I agree with that. I think it's great to know where you come from.
Right.
And
who do you tend to hang out with more now?
Now?
As far as people are concerned, a mixed group of friends?
Now it's mixed, and I don't think it happened this way on purpose. But I would say, that about half of my friends are white and half of them are Asian, and there's just a couple of Latinos thrown in there,
Right.
a couple of black people thrown in there, but just probably majority Asian and white.
Is that, well, like you said, it wasn't consciously where you're saying, okay, I have one of you, now I need one of you.
No.
Is there just a subconscious...
Well, and those are mainly my friends out here in California. I think prior to that, nearly all of my friends were white.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, California offers you more of a diverse array of people to choose from.
Yeah, I think that's probably more of it, the people that I'm coming in contact with.
Do you feel more comfortable living in an area that has this type of diversity, or did Lexington, Kentucky, do you feel more comfortable there? And more homogenous?
I'm not even sure if it has to do with comfortable, but I love it here. That's one of the things I love about this place. I love that there's so many people of so many different cultures, mainly because I think I'm obsessed with food, and you have enough people of a culture there. They'll have a restaurant, and you can taste Indonesian food and Peruvian food and stuff that I would never have come in contact with in Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
So, yeah, I like it. I don't think it's so much an issue as comfort as excitement.
Well, what are some of the benefits of being mixed that you've experienced?
Probably that chameleon-like ability to blend in a lot of different places.
Tell me a story where you've been able to blend in. I mean, besides, you did mention, I guess, Italy and people thinking that you're Italian and people thinking that you're Latino.
Yeah. Do I have any other stories other than that? I don't know. I guess maybe one of those things would be that we have a pretty high population of Hispanic engineers at the refinery, and I go out with them, and I feel like I kind of blend in with them. That's probably the best I could do for you on that one.
Yeah. And that's definitely a benefit, that chameleon-like ability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people have mentioned that you're not the first, so that is a unique thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see kids struggling with being mixed? I mean, do you imagine that it's easier now than it was, a few years ago for you or for?
It's hard for me to say. I guess I hope that it is a little easier for them. That, I mean, even though I didn't know until I was an adult that my mom had issues where people looked at her funny because she was with a Filipino guy. I would like to think that young kids aren't going to find that out about, with their parents, that they're not going to ever deal with that sort of thing. And I mean, like I'm saying, it wasn't that hard on me, so it's really a small thing, but I also hope they don't run into the confusion that I ran into when somebody tries to push them into one category or another when they're really mixed.
Exactly. Well, is there anything I haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about?
Actually, I do have one thing that's really interesting. I was going back to that story where I was saying how with the forms and having to pick what ethnicity you are, how upset I got when somebody told me that I should be putting that I'm white. A real interesting story on that is back, I think when he was in about 9th grade, my brother, the one who I say looks probably the closest to Filipino, when he broke his leg and he was in the hospital, at least I think it was this time and not another time, they were filling out the forms and asking him questions or whatever and filling them out, and the lady asked him what race he was, and he said white. And so she asked him again, what race are you? And he said white. And then she asks him again, and he starts getting angry, and she starts getting angry, and finally my mom had to step in. I'm his mother. He says he's white. Put white down. Yeah. And I find it kind of interesting that two children, having grown up in similar surroundings with the same parents, would have opposite reactions to that.
Where does your brother live now?
He still lives in Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Do you think that, obviously, she was telling him you can't be white?
Yeah, the woman that was filling out the forms.
Do you feel that you could make that choice if you wanted to?
To put white down?
Yeah, well, I mean, your teacher told you to that time, but in your daily life.
Oh, you mean that nobody would challenge it?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anyone would challenge it if I would. I have lighter skin and lighter hair. I don't think people would challenge me as much. They might look at me funny, but then they might be like, oh, she's probably Italian or something like that.
Has your brother ever talked to you about that?
No, I've never brought it up. I remember my mom telling me this story, and I thought it was kind of funny.
Right. Well, hopefully we're beyond that soon. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope we'll... Oh, really?
For something like that. But I know for a fact that there were other mixed people in the room at the time.
Right.
But it was funny. Everybody had stereotypes for every group, but when it came to mixed, they did have trouble coming up with stereotypes. I got, I think confused was the only good one.
Huh.
Another one was like beautiful. And I think they may have come up with a third item, but I don't even remember what it could have been.
Because it sounds like people generally think that, I don't know, maybe they think being mixed is, they either think it's a benefit or they think that it's a horrible thing and that, your society's just going to beat up on you all the time.
Yeah, it's like one or the other.
Yeah,
extreme.
there isn't
so
any
weird.
in between, and I think that, again, that's what's really
I just thought that was
authentic.
interesting. It really threw everybody for a loop, but it was very interesting. I wanted, I wouldn't have done that on purpose had I known what they were going to do with it.
Right.
But it turned out to be an interesting thing because I got to see, well, what do people think?
Right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go out on the street and find out what people think, and that's going to sort of introduce...